That basically means that we are changing our network because we are now looking at further expansions in the provinces. We are relying very much on our existing and coming franchise partners, whether it is in the Visayas, Mindanao. Within the next maximum 5 months, you will see additional locations under the franchise concept. And we, of course, since we already have the largest network of locations nationally and globally, we are well prepared to accommodate many more customers in the outskirts of Metro Manila.
Lars, just a quick question. Which were your main sectors and types of businesses that you were servicing from the beginning? Are these more, smaller businesses? Are these big conglomerates? And are they the ones most exposed to the pandemic, or are these actually businesses that might actually thrive, technology firms, for example, or e-commerce retail firms that will still be able to use these types of flexible workspaces and need to be present in certain locations?
Yep. For us, the short answer is really yes to all of the above, because our customers are literally from all industries. And when I look at the top 10 industries compared to the number of customers that we have, here in the Philippines, everybody assumes that if you are very big and expanding as rapidly as we do, if you're not a BPO or a POGO company, then you're probably, they must be your customers. And the fact is, they're not even among our top 10 customers. We are servicing all types, from the largest multinationals to the smallest startups. However, we are also sensitive both directly and indirectly to the trends among BPOs, and not least the fact that the POGO seems to not to only be returning on a very limited scale. Why? Directly because in terms of square meters, they do represent a bigger part of our of the space taken, because they are single bigger customers. Indirectly because we anticipate, and we are starting to see the trends already, that the vacancies on the market overall for commercial office space is definitely increasing.
All right, Lars, I just want to drive on a point here you mentioned earlier, how the situation is really moving from central business districts, and a lot of businesses now really driving towards establishing their offices at these satellite offices in suburban and provincial areas. How much has the pandemic actually fast-tracked this move when we're talking about co-working spaces? And can you nuance this a bit, give us more details on any other particular areas outside CBDs that you are looking at expanding?
Okay, let's start with some pretty cool numbers that we were all advocating pre-COVID-19, and that was that by year 2030, it was anticipated that about 30% of all commercial office space globally, but also very much in the Philippines, would one way or the other be flexible. Those 30% we are going to reach definitely. We're just not going to have to wait till year 2030. It's going to happen sooner. And when we're looking at outside Metro Manila and expansions and demand, etc., and by the way, we are still welcoming more than 100 new additional customers every single month. This month, last month, the month before. So amid COVID-19, things are absolutely moving, but they are changing. There's more replacing, replenishment going on. It is certainly a time of change. Now, your question was, where do we see it happening outside Metro Manila? I would say an obvious starter is actually Clark. Why? Well, obviously it's outside Metro Manila. Secondly, you can actually drive there from Metro Manila. And a lot of us are sitting in Metro Manila looking for somewhere to expand, to move to outside. And domestic flying is still very much restricted. So that's an obvious starter. But we already see the demand, everything happening the most obvious ground zeros outside Metro Manila, there would of course be Cebu and Davao. But with Cebu, I would like to say the entire province, including Lapu-Lapu. I would also like to add Bacolod, Iloilo, and in Mindanao, definitely more expansion within Davao City. But the obvious second and third priorities would be Cagayan and General Santos are still absolutely thriving. And these tier 2 cities, they will see a faster growth than they probably otherwise would have, at least in terms of getting a bigger part of the national pie sooner. Then the big question for me and those tier 2 cities is just how big is the pie going to be? But that's another story or another discussion.
Yeah, I'm actually going to jump off on that point and play, devil's advocate here, because you guys had such a great proposal for a niche market wherein property prices were soaring through the roof, and small companies in particular could not afford to have, these big floors, and they needed these solutions, these flexible workspaces in the best areas. Now that property prices are paring back and vacancy rates are going down, will there be much more competition with traditional office spaces that are providing, reprieves on rent, moratoriums, and much more, a lot of enticements basically to get these smaller players in? And how are you going to be positioning amid that?
No, the competition from conventional office space is not going to get tougher on us. Actually, the exact opposite. Because when everybody are returning, when we come out on the other side, when we turn the corner, everybody, as mentioned, will be returning to different workspace requirements than they had before. And are they going to be very confident on a long-term basis about what those needs are going to be? The answer is no. So they're going to be agile, they're going to adapt, they're going to change their setups, but they're not going to do it with capital investments and long-term liabilities. No, they leave those to us, and then they make their flexible arrangements with us.
Very